Hey everybody, Jeff here, coming to you again to show you another game that is on Kickstarter right now. Prototype copy in front of me, fair warning. So prototype that I don't even have a cool box to show you. So we're going to be looking at Forged in Steel, which is on Kickstarter right now, going till February 3rd, 2015, I believe. And it is Wade Broadhead and Nightworks Games. So go check that out. Again, it's on there right now. I am going to tell you a little bit about this game. Now, they've done an excellent job on the Kickstarter page of putting together a video explaining the ins and outs of how to set up and play this game. And you'll be seeing a little bit of gameplay behind me, so I am not going to go into all that. This is an initial impressions video, so I'm going to tell you basically kind of what I think of this game. So you're going to play this game in like 3 eras. And each era has various phases in it, and basically end of the game, person with most points wins. It's a bit of, again, it's a card-driven game, so you're going to be making choices. Some choices based off of the cards you have. It's also a bit of an area control game, so you're going to be trying to control the different neighborhoods and blocks and all that good stuff, different types of buildings. You're going to be putting houses and factories and commercial buildings and hospitals and all that good stuff. And your mansions and all of those wonderful things. You're going to be taking control of mines. And during all this, this is set from the 1890s to 1910. So it's 3 different eras in Pueblo, Colorado during that time. And it's very interesting game in that aspect because you're playing each of these eras. Each era has cards associated with it on the cards. And one of the things I really like about the game is that, and what I like about a lot of games that do this, is when cards have multiple uses. I like when you give me a game where I have to make a choice, and sometimes, especially when they're hard choices, do I need, in this instance, do I need the points to do what I need to do on the board to show ownership of different things? You know, you can do things like buy, build, and seize. So you're going to buy lots. You're going to potentially build houses and buildings and stuff like that. And you have the option of seizing certain buildings that are owned by other players. And all of that is done with these wonderful points up here. You can also do things like take a mine and good stuff like that. So these points are very important as the game goes on. You've only got so many cards in your hand each era, so you're not going to, it's not like you have an infinite amount of these cards that you're going to be messing with. The other thing too is each card, if you're not using it that way, has an event associated with it. So for instance, this particular card has 5 points, which is pretty good. So I could use those points to do a lot of different things. Or I can use the event, and the event on this one is place a commercial building and increase the commercial track. If I increase the commercial track, commercial buildings are worth more points at the end of the era, and you do point scoring at the end of each era. So that, not only are you putting down a commercial building, but you're increasing how many points that building is worth at the end of this era. So that's pretty cool. The other thing too is some of them also have a headline associated with it. So if you use it for the points, you straight use it for the points. If you use it as an event and it has a headline, you do both. Now, the headline on this one is you score 1 victory point whenever any player places or builds a commercial building. So if you play this, you get the event where you build the commercial building and increase the commercial track, and then you're going to put it on the board either in the lead headline or the headlines area, and you'll put a cube on it to show that it's yours. So if it goes in the lead headline area, so basically if you're the first person to play a headline event in an era, it'll first get slotted in the lead headline spot, which means it's permanent basically for this era. So if I am the first person, if I decide to give up using the 5 points and play this as an event, I'm banking on the fact that probably not only am I building the commercial building and increasing how much points commercial buildings are worth at the end of the era, I'm also banking on other people playing commercial buildings, and myself, maybe I'm going for commercial buildings and getting the extra victory points during this era. So I'm slotting that into the lead headline spot and making this the permanent headline for this era. Anybody else that plays headlines after that kind of goes into the headlines area, which is basically temporary headlines. They are there. You have your cube on it. It's active until the next player places another headline, and then it kind of gets replaced. So again, that's one of those cool little decisions that you kind of get to make during the game. Not only does this card have multiple uses, but do I want to sacrifice keeping this card or waiting, or do I really want this to be do I want to be the first one to get the permanent headline for this era? So that's one of the things that's kind of going on in this game. The other, of course, is, you're going around and the different ways you can score points and working out blocks. I don't know if I can get a good, you'll probably see it in the gameplay a bit, but there's a lot of spots and a lot of things kind of going on, and different areas that are only available. It's like this is all factory. You can only put factory. It's slotted for factories, stuff like that. Your mines are off to the side. So there's a lot of cool things going on in that aspect. And then there's some other things kind of going on in this game too. There's the unrest tract, which I think is kind of interesting. It is basically, there are things that you can do throughout the game that are going to, and events that are going to cause unrest. And if you're the one that's causing unrest, you put a cube on there. And there's 8 spots for unrest cubes to be. And once it hits 8, riot immediately breaks out. Now, whoever has the most cubes in the unrest track gets to become the primary target, or the first target, if you will. And whoever has the least amount of cubes gets to pick where that targeting happens. So then you basically, the game comes with a d4. You roll a d4. In the first era, it's whatever's on the die. In the second and third era, you basically add +1, +2. So in the 1900s, whenever a riot breaks out, you roll the die and add 1. In 1910, you roll the die and add 2 to it. And basically what that means is that's how many buildings, or how many buildings are going to get destroyed. And the target has to be, so the person that had the most cubes there has to be the first place that's getting destroyed. And then the person with the least cubes picks where on the board that starts happening. And you can kind of make it so, let's say we're talking about a riot in 1910, and you roll the d4 and you got a 4. So now you're supposed to destroy 6 buildings. Maybe that the person that gets to choose the targeting is looking around, and no matter how they look at it, or let's say there's 3 different spots where if they fully go out the 6, they are going to get hurt pretty good. So obviously they're trying to avoid that, but they find another spot where they can kind of curve it up and away from the rest of the population, if you will. If there's a gap, you don't get to leap back to other spots and complete the 6. You just kind of make it run its course. So let's say you kind of L-shaped up and all the other population is down here. You're not going to leap back down there. You're just going to take like those 4, let's say, that were there. And out of that, let's say the person with the least only lost 1, where maybe every other chance or every other spot on the board they had, maybe they would have lost 4 or 5 houses themselves. They were too congregated around where the person that kind of kicks off the riot was. So just a lot of little things like that, a lot of little different tracks, different ways. Each neighborhood has a different score track that kind of gets increased as needed. The mines can go up in score. Industrial track, the factories and stuff can go up in score. Commercial buildings can go up in score. And then there's roles as well, which is kind of interesting too. There's the mayor. Not only are you going to have cubes that you put down to show that you own certain lots and blocks and buildings and all that good stuff, but the city itself has white cubes that they get to put out as well. There's a few in here. And if you end up basically building something over something that the city owns, they'll get points for it as well. So what does that mean, though? I mean, why does the city get points? Well, the city doesn't actually end up getting points. At the end, after everybody's done all their building, everybody's done all that good stuff, and you've done the initial scoring, if you will, there's going to be a vote by neighborhood who gets to be the mayor. And whoever has the most votes is going to be the mayor. And they get the points that the city got for that era. And then it goes back to 0, and you'll accumulate city points for the next era, if you will. So, there's that. The tax official is kind of interesting in that there's a little bit of card drafting in this as well. So when an era starts, you get, let's see, the first and second era, you get like 8 cards, 2 of which you'll put aside. And those will be cards that you get in the last era. So the first 2 eras, you're kind of building up your end era deck, and then you'll discard 1. You'll have so many cards left in your hand. The tax official is then going to take some cards off of the deck, equal the number of players, and they get to pick one for themselves. But then instead of saying the normal pick one, past your left, past your right, and that's they get to pick one, and then they decide who gets the next pick. It can be anybody at the table. And then that person gets to decide who gets the next pick out of people that haven't had a pick yet, and so on. So I kind of see some of that going down as where maybe you get a little bit of the alliance negotiation stuff kind of going down. Not major, because it only happens at the beginning of an era, but it's kind of interesting in the fact that it's not I get pass to the left, pass to the right, that kind of stuff, where it's all right. I think you need one of these cards, that kind of thing, and you get to pass from any direction that you want. So that's kind of cool. There's going to be the Black Hand Mafia, which is kind of going around destroying stuff. That happens towards the end of the phase as well. So that's always kind of interesting. The Customs official gets points for however many mines are owned, I believe. And then we've got, who else? We got the Immigration official, who basically we're also going to be adding immigrants coming to the town towards the end of an era, so everybody gets to build out houses. And if you can't build the amount of houses you need to, you got to put cubes on the unrest track. So I believe the immigration official gets to be the first one to do that. So lots of cool things, lots to remember in this game. There's a nice handy little reference sheet that's kind of come with it. This game has lots and lots of bits, all over the place bits, lots of cards. Again, kind of a card-driven game. A lot going on, and again, it's at the end of 3 eras, whoever has the most victory points is the winner. So that was a lot, and I think I feel like I barely touched the surface on a lot of this stuff. So again, check out the video for the gameplay and the setup. You'll get a lot more off of that than what I just kind of went through, because I'm doing a lot of this off the top of my head, thinking about things I kind of like and enjoyed. So to kind of finish out with that, initial impressions, which is what this is. Again, I like the game. I like the different things kind of going on, the different pieces. There's the area control. There's a little bit of hand management. There's a little bit of decision making in how you use the cards, and I like that really a lot. Is close. It borderlines on fiddly for me. I can see this being overly fiddly for some people, and for other people that'll be in my wheelhouse, I guess, and be fine with it. But to me, it's right on that edge. There's so much going on, and there's so many different things going on. There's so many different things in scoring that you get, and then there's the drafting in the beginning, and the area control and building up in the middle, and the scoring, which is there's multiple scores, and then there's the vote to see who gets to be the mayor. So tallying up that, which again kind of boils back to your area control stuff anyway. But it's just one more thing to kind of remember. And then the Black Hand Mafia gets to do their thing, and then you might be in the middle of something, and hey, a riot breaks out. So there's a lot going on, and it's borderline fiddly, but not bad for me. I actually enjoyed it. I thought There's a lot of interesting decisions going on here. Casual gamer, I would say no. As soon as I busted this out, as soon as I started looking through the rule book and everything else, I immediately knew I was not going to be playing this with Megan. And she's kind of looked at it and I believe was grateful for the fact that I made that decision up front. Because there is a lot going on here. So you're not going to necessarily appeal to a casual gamer on this one. Definitely not in the gateway realm at all. I think there's way too much going on here. You're going to basically make somebody's head explode if they're not used to these style of games. But for the hardcore gamer, for a good game night, this is a good, solid game if you like making all of those decisions. Randomness level, let's see. You get dealt a certain amount of cards. You deal with those cards. So there's a little bit of random there. There's a lot of games like that. That's not a big deal. And you get to see them and make your decisions. And again, you work with what you got. So I don't think that's bad. The D4, where does that come in? There's a couple different spots it comes in, but it's not like game changing. Again, the Black Hand Mafia gets to do it to see how much they get to destroy. I believe, is it Mines? Get to roll it for how many points they get when you take a mine. And then if you roll a 3 or a 4, unrest comes with those points. So you get the points, but you've caused unrest. And again, like we talked about, if a riot breaks out, how many buildings get destroyed is determined by the D4. That's all minor stuff. That's easily dealt with. And again, even like I said, with the unrest level and the D4 and maybe getting a high number, the person choosing where that breaks out can kind of mitigate that number maybe if they feel like it. I think randomness is low. It's kind of, you get some randomness up front and you deal with it versus something random happening to you all the time. That's not really happening in this game. You've got your cards. You kind of know what they are. You got to figure out what order you want to play them. Do you want them for the points or the headlines or the events, all that good stuff. You got to kind of focus in on your area control. One of the things I kind of maybe didn't mention up front is, you're going to buy lots, but you own the lot. That doesn't mean you're going to build on the lot. So if somebody else builds on a lot that you own, you get a point for it. So there's something to be said for kind of maybe spreading out a bit and making your spots kind of enticing to other players, because if you build on your own lot, you don't get that extra victory point. Now, whatever you built, you'll probably get points for later, but you're not going to get the victory point for somebody taking a lot that you've acquired over the game. Other thing, I briefly talked about Seas, mostly just mentioned it, but between that and some of the events and all that stuff and things like the riot and the Black Hand Mafia, there's a nice element of take that, screw your neighbor in this as well, which sometimes goes really well, I think, with area control anyway. So again, anybody that knows all us geeks, we love our area, we love our take that, screw your neighbor. So that was very enjoyable as well. All right, I think I'm kind of at the end of what I want to say about Forged in Steel. Solid game, borderline fiddly. Again, you're going to have to decide for yourself. Watch the video that they put out. You can see a bunch of different things. I think they go into even an era of scoring, so you can kind of see that. And there is a lot going on in this game. But if you like the area control, if you like the kind of take that, screw your neighbor style stuff, if you like a meatier game with a lot of different decisions being made throughout the game, definitely worth checking out. I have enjoyed my time with this game. I really hope this one gets created and successful on Kickstarter. Again, I believe it's going until February 3rd, 2015. So Forged in Steel by Nightworks Games, created by Wade Broadhead, I believe. And yeah, I am on board. I like it. Go check it out. Thanks, and I will talk to you soon.